Daniel Sports Central, we go for a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 4 matchup between the Ole Miss Rebels and the Alabama Crimson Tide, two of the top teams in the SEC going head-to-head here in Week 4. And for Ole Miss, I would even say this is an underrated Ole Miss team right now. This is a team that's been dominant so far this season, 3-0 on the year, ranked in the top 15, but this is a team that's not getting enough attention quite yet. I mean, the SEC is very competitive at the top, but Ole Miss is a team to definitely keep an eye on. And they've got a big chance coming up here in Week 4. They're taking on Alabama on the road, which Crimson Tide are in a different situation right now, not something that they're used to. The quarterback situation is a big question mark for this team right now. Trying to figure things out, especially offensively for Alabama right now. So with that, this is a big game for them to get back on track as we look forward to the conference slate. So with that, we'll be going for a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with your team trends. Ole Miss is 3-0 on the season. This team has been dominant so far, beat Georgia Tech last week 48-23. You also got to consider this team took on a talented Tulane team in Week 2. Of course, Tulane didn't have Michael Pratt, but that's still a really talented football team that should be getting more attention as well. And so for that, I mean, Ole Miss is a 3-0 football team with some impressive wins so far this season. Alabama on the other side, they struggled against South Florida last week, a team that Alabama definitely shouldn't be, but final score is 17-3. Defensively, they shut down the Bulls, but offensively, just couldn't get anything going. And obviously, they were experimenting with the quarterback situation. Tyler Buckner was in there for a while, and obviously, it still appears like Jalen Milroe is the guy for Alabama, even though he's been less than impressive so far this season. So Alabama's still trying to figure that out. But once again, this is a team that is still coached by Nick Saban. They're a team with tremendous upside. It's just a matter of when is this team going to click, and when they do, this is definitely a team to keep an eye on. But game's going to be on Saturday the 23rd in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama's the home team for this matchup. Obviously, Tuscaloosa, a brutal place to win in. And we saw Texas do it a couple of weeks ago, but that's a very rare thing. That does not happen often, seeing a visitor go into Tuscaloosa and come back out with a win. But kickoff is 3:30 Eastern. Spread's going with Alabama here by 7. So the Crimson Tide are favored by a touchdown. Over-under is 56, and the FBI is going with the Tide as well, 66%. So Crimson Tide still favored by a touchdown despite their recent struggles, and Ole Miss being hot as well. Series history, Alabama leads at 54-10. So that might be a reason right there. Alabama's been so dominant in this series. I mean, Ole Miss has only won 10 times through 64 matchups, and Alabama's won 7 straight. Last time Ole Miss won, it was in 2015. That was the time where from 2014 to 2015, Ole Miss was a problem for the Tide. They beat Alabama in both 2014 and 2015, but haven't beat them since. Your stat comparison, Ole Miss 10th in points per game this season, 46th in points allowed. This is a well-rounded football team that is especially strong on offense. Jackson Dart has been great so far this season. He's finally got some experience, and he's really shined for this team so far this season. And defensively, this team has shown potential as well, but haven't been quite as dominant as you could say the offensive side. But for Alabama, this team is 37th in points per game, 22nd in points allowed. This is not typically what we see out of Alabama. Typically, this is a team that in every area is top 20, but that is far from the case this season. This is a team that's clearly a bit inexperienced. I mean, this is a team that was very talented last year, lost a lot of talent, and most of the time we kind of assume that nowadays about Alabama and Ohio State and your top powers, even Georgia at this point, that even though they're losing so much talent year after year, there are teams that restock so easily. They're strong with recruiting. They've got a ton of depth, and the thing is about Alabama, this team it's not quite the same situation that we've seen out of recent years. This is a team that still is growing quite a bit, and they're very talented. It's just this team hasn't clicked quite yet, and that's something that you'll hear quite a bit is once this team can do that, they're very dangerous. Your recent matchups, Ole Miss, they beat Georgia Tech, beat Tulane, and beat Mercer so far this season, all in dominant fashion. And as for Alabama, beat South Florida 17-3, lost to Texas by 10. Obviously a brutal loss there, but Texas is an experienced and stronger team than Alabama right now, and Alabama could definitely be better by the end of the season. It was just Texas was more ready to win at that point in Week 2, and of course beat Middle Tennessee 56-7. Your key points for this one, Ole Miss 3-0. This is a strong football team, an SEC dark horse. I mean, in the SEC, you got several. I mean, it's such a deep conference. I mean, you got contenders everywhere, but most of the noise is about Georgia and LSU and Alabama. Ole Miss is a team that is right up there as well. This is a very talented football team, very capable of being a contender in the conference. And yeah, even Tennessee's gotten more noise than Ole Miss so far this season. So, and Ole Miss, I would say, is a much better football team than Tennessee is right now. So, I mean, for Ole Miss, offensively, that's really where this team shines. And if they can win in Tuscaloosa in this matchup, which is very much a possibility, I think, that really puts them in college football playoff contention. And that was the issue for this team last season, was finishing the season, winning the big games down the stretch. And if they can get a big win here in week 4, this would really bring some great momentum to this team and some confidence as well to keep moving forward into the big matchups that lie ahead. But for Alabama, this is a talented team that has some experience. It's still a talented team. And I mean, Jalen Milroe is expected to remain the starting quarterback, even though kind of a rocky start for him so far this season, especially against Texas in week 2. I mean, the Middle Tennessee matchup, he looked great. It was just against Texas where a couple of turnovers definitely changed the game. But this is a big opportunity for Crimson Tide to get back on track. If they can beat Ole Miss here, a top 15 football team that I think is a really good team, that really puts Alabama in a position where you can at least have some optimism about them. They can still be a big contender this season. Even though I think it's kind of clear the way this team looks right now, it's going to be tough for this team to be a big national contender like we've seen so many times in recent years. But, I mean, this team can still get there. It's just, it doesn't look great right now. But this is a big chance for Alabama to get back on track against a good Ole Miss team. But with that, let's get to the prediction here for Ole Miss and Alabama coming up here in week 4. Definitely a big SEC matchup. And in the end, went back and forth on this one, but I am going with Alabama. I think Alabama being at home, this is still a Nick Saban coached team. They're extremely well coached, and I feel like this is a team that is only going to improve over the course of the season, and it starts here. I think we see more of a lower scoring matchup. I think Alabama's defense really shows up and has a strong game here. And that's really what it's going to come down to in a lot of games, I think, this season for Alabama is the defense. Because offensively, this team is just against these tough SEC defenses. It's going to be tough to score points right now. So, I mean, for Alabama's defense to come through, I think they do here. And Ole Miss is a strong offense. So, I do think they still have 24 points. But in the end, the Tide scored 28 and a big win for Alabama here. But this is one that could definitely go either way. I think Alabama being at home does help, but that doesn't save Alabama from winning this matchup. Ole Miss is definitely a team that can still rival the Crimson Tide and definitely be competitive. But in the end, I'm also taking the under and Ole Miss to cover the spread in the end. I do think Ole Miss is going to cover. I'm pretty comfortable saying that with the spread currently at Alabama by 7. But anyway, with that, I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, your score predictions, and all of that. Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.